What is going on, coin traders? Thanks for joining me for the show. Looking at ICP, Internet Computer, ICP on that ticker. Been a couple weeks since we've had a little update here. Not too much going on in terms of the price update. Of course, not really much has been happening over the last 5 months here as we've more or less just sat kind of sideways in this overall channel. But like we say, that's actually a pretty good sign for longer term growth, especially with such a long establishment of this sideways channel. And obviously better to see that than kind of a trend to the downside. So still a pretty good sign overall, despite having a pretty good pullback here and forming more or less this longer term triangle pattern that we're going to be looking to break out of bullish here soon. But few key levels to be looking at coming up here. Obviously, we have a super strong level of closing support here for the price 1170 for that, and then up overhead, big level of closing resistance coming in right at the 1362 mark. So as you can see, very big points here that we have been holding as support, and then obviously big resistance points. But the thing about the current setup right now is that because we're actually starting to get a lot closer to these exponential moving averages, especially with holding a higher low on the price as well as on the close here, we are going to start to close this gap, and it is going to start to narrow, which does start to increase the likelihood more and more of a favorable upside bullish direction when we do see this type of formation and setup with the exponential moving averages happening. So ever since we have actually flipped bearish into this setup and scenario, still have held longer term support, so still a very good sign. And obviously if we do want to look at the weekly, for example, still looking very, very favorable as well. So specifically, if we want to look at the 26 period EMA, have been holding this level as support, and support obviously did lose the 12 period EMA, which is a very nice guide, and broke back below that despite reclaiming it once again. But the thing is still holding the 26 period exponential moving average. Very good sign. A lot of cryptos aren't even doing that on the weekly right now. So still maintaining a very nice bullish setup and formation. And then especially if we can get a favorable breakout from this longer term triangle pattern, that's going to help to keep and maintain and help push this back to the upside and allow this 12 period EMA to actually extend its width from the 26 and then also the 50, because the last thing we want to do right now is see a bearish cross of the 12 over the 26. That's going to be extremely difficult to actually overcome. But the good news is that, like we talked about before, looking down below, decrease in overall sell pressure still been a good sign, especially since we have maintained a lot of these supports. So decrease in sell pressure does decrease the likelihood that these supports are going to break, especially after being such relevant supports for so long. And now seeing a decrease in that sell pressure does maintain the likelihood of a lot more favorable bullish direction. Pulling up technicals here, looking specifically at stochastic RSI back below the 20 line like a lot of cryptos. And last time we did see that and get a very nice confirmation of a bullish cross on that. Did have our nice directional trend to the upside. So despite having a kind of a minimal cross here, we do know that the support being maintained does lead to the case where we're going to have an upside direction on the stochastic RSI, which does put a lot more pressure to the upside for this overall price. And as you can see, every single last time that we have had it happen, despite the market trends, the longer term, when we do actually get this, especially now being that we are in a bullish setup for these exponential moving averages, does increase the likelihood of a longer term continued uptrend and favorable movement here for this ICP chart. So looking at the 2-day chart really quick here before we go ahead and wrap up. And as you can see, kind of a bad sign, just like we talked about once we do get the bearish cross. Not the best sign in the world, so hopefully we can actually reclaim it, especially after putting out these lower support levels. Right now, we are looking at a level of closing support on this 2-day coming right in at 1175. And as we can see, very nice support levels zooming all the way back. So extremely, extremely relevant. And right now on the current setup, going to be looking for that. But the thing about that is that the current setup right now is also rejecting from these exponential moving averages, specifically between the 12 and 26. So looking more short term for that, but that does mean it will be easier to flip. So still plenty of resistance up overhead. And then even turning on the VPVR, volume profile visible range, you can still see that the big points of mass here that we're looking at are still coming up overhead. So big point of mass is going to be right around the $13 level. So despite holding longer term support, we do have that big zone that we actually need to smash through. But assuming we can get back above that, that would be a bullish sign for these exponential moving averages, as well as sitting on top of all this mass for VPR support. And that in that instance, if we can overcome a lot of that resistance and maintain support on top of the 13 to 1350 zone, that's going to be a lot more of that bullish sign that we need to look for to see continued upside bullish action. And I think in that instance, we would start to trend higher and higher across the rest of the crypto space as well. So overall, still been mostly relatively extremely boring for ICP setup here, especially this whole entire year so far. But like we said, still better to set sideways and kind of trend more or less in a channel and zone sideways than in a downward trending channel and zone as well. So still optimistic about a nice bullish approach and breakout coming, assuming that we don't lose support for the 1170 to 1175 level. If that level does break, then because we have been supporting it for so long, that will be an extremely bad sign and likely will lead to a little bit more of a longer term sell-off there. And that's one of the reasons why it is so important and critical for the bulls to keep maintaining that level of support. So hopefully we can see a little bit more of that upside directional action and not to the downside. And like we said, closing below that level would be pretty bad for ICP here in the coming months. But so yeah, that is going to go ahead and wrap up the show for today. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you have not done so just yet. Also appreciate all the continuous love and support. Does mean so much. Don't forget to drop me a note, question, comments, issues, disagreements, all that stuff down below in the comments section, or reach out over on Twitter at @coin_trades. That's it for now, though. So stay safe, coin traders. Take care, and I'll catch you back in the next video.